Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine a digital landscape where the rules are constantly changing and staying secure feels like, well, a never ending game of whack a mole. Today, we're diving deep into exactly that, the cutting edge of cloud security. Welcome, everyone, to TechDaily.ai. This deep dive is sponsored by Stonefly, your trusted solution provider and advisor in enterprise storage, backup disaster recovery, hyper-converged VMware, Hyper-V, Proxmox cluster, AI servers, SA365, a turnkey security appliance, public and private cloud. For more info, check out stonefly.com. Our mission today is really to cut through the noise. We want to give you a crystal clear picture of the 2025 cloud security landscape. We've compiled insights from comprehensive analysis on cloud security trends and recent deep dives into identity and access management, plus key perspectives from the big cloud players like AWS and Google Cloud. You'll walk away with the most important nuggets of knowledge, maybe some surprising facts about what's truly shaping the challenges security teams face, and, the strategies they need to stay ahead. We're here to help you understand not just what is happening, but why it matters to you.
What's truly fascinating here, I think, is observing the sheer velocity, how quickly the cloud environment is evolving. And, with every wave of innovation, the potential risks are also expanding at just an unprecedented rate. We'll be exploring a core concept that really underpins much of what we're seeing, the defender's paradox. This is the idea that attackers, well, to succeed, they only need to be right once, find just one vulnerability. Meanwhile, defenders must be right every single time, securing every potential entry point. It's a fundamental imbalance that shapes the entire field. Makes this deep dive particularly critical.
That's a powerful and frankly a bit daunting way to frame what we're about to explore. Gil Geron, CEO and co-founder of Orca Security, puts it starkly. He emphasizes that cloud security has truly reached a critical turning point. It's not just about migrating existing stuff to the cloud anymore. Organizations are now building their core innovation, their growth engines directly within these cloud environments, which means security isn't just some technical IT concern now. It's a non-negotiable business imperative. It hits the bottom line.
Absolutely. And this critical turning point is being driven by several converging trends that are actively reshaping the challenges for security teams. Think about the rapid adoption of cloud-native tech, the increasing complexity of, say, multi-cloud environments, and the explosive integration of AI. Past security strategies, the ones that might have worked for more static on-prem infrastructures, they're no longer adequate. They can't possibly keep pace with the dynamic, interconnected, sort of ephemeral nature of these new cloud environments. It's a fundamental shift in how we approach defense. It demands a proactive, holistic stance, not just reacting after the fact.
And speaking of that proactive stance, this concept you mentioned, the defender's paradox, it really seems to capture the essence of this challenge. We just touched on it, but can you break down what it is and why it's so crucial for anyone working with cloud environments to really grasp? It sounds inherently unfair.
It is at its core, an asymmetrical battle, like that whack-a-mole game you mentioned. The defender's paradox highlights that an attacker only needs to find one vulnerability, one misconfiguration, just one single overlooked entry point to succeed. They just need to be right once. Contrast that with the defenders, the security teams. They have to be right every single time. They need to secure every potential entry point, every config, every layer across this incredibly vast and constantly changing landscape. And the numbers really underscore this. Get this. A startling 13% of organizations have a single cloud asset that supports, wait for it, more than 1,000 potential attack paths.
One asset.
1,000 ways in.
Imagine that, one asset, 1,000 ways. It's not just finding a needle in a haystack. It's securing every piece of straw so no needle can ever get through. All while the haystack is constantly growing and shifting. This vastly amplifies the defender's challenge. The game is far from fair. That statistic alone, wow, enough to keep anyone up at night. Knowing one overlooked component can unravel so much. And it leads us directly to some, overall troubling trends highlighted in recent analysis. We're seeing that greater cloud innovation, while fantastic for business agility, right, it unfortunately brings proportionally greater cloud risk. Attack surfaces aren't just expanding, they're becoming incredibly interconnected, so a compromise in one area can quickly cascade. Risks aren't just confined to the runtime environment either, they're spanning the entire application pipeline, from code commit to production. And ultimately, this relentless innovation is just expanding the sheer scale and complexity of the risks we face.
That's absolutely right. Let's break those macro trends down a bit further, maybe link them back to that defender's paradox. When we talk about cloud innovation bringing greater risk, it's because as organizations adopt more cloud-native tech, expand their footprint, the sheer volume and severity of potential risks grow proportionally. It's not just linear, it feels exponential. A powerful example. Nearly a third of cloud assets, 32% to be precise, are considered neglected today. And each of those neglected assets contains, on average, a staggering 115 vulnerabilities.
115 per asset.
Per neglected asset, yeah. This isn't just a technical oversight. It points to a critical organizational challenge. The sheer velocity of cloud adoption often outpaces the ability to maintain vigilant oversight.
Yeah.
It leads to this silent accumulation of digital debt. It makes you ask, are we building faster than we can maintain? And for attackers, that's hundreds of potential entry points that might not even be monitored. And there's the expanding and interconnected attack surfaces. This means 76%. That's 3/4 of organizations have at least one public-facing asset that can enable lateral movement.
Okay, so one entry point can lead deeper in.
Exactly. A single initial compromise, maybe through one of those neglected assets, can quickly become an opportunity for much broader infiltration. Attackers can move from that one exposed point deeper into your environment, potentially reaching high-value assets. It's not just defending an expanding perimeter, but one where every component is increasingly linked. It creates this complex web where a single weak thread can unravel the whole thing, and moving to risks spanning the entire pipeline. This highlights that vulnerabilities aren't just popping up in deployed apps. They often originate much earlier in development, in what's known as infrastructure as code, or IAC, templates, or even in the source code itself. A critical finding here: 85% of organizations have plaintext secrets think API keys, database passwords, credentials embedded directly in their source code repositories.
85%. Seriously, just sitting in the code.
Yep. If those repositories get exposed, even for a moment, attackers can easily grab those credentials and use them. Access systems, exfiltrate data. This oversight just compounds risk across the entire cloud ecosystem, turns what should be a secure internal process into a potential launchpad for breaches. And finally, innovation expanding the scale of risks. This touches on new tech like AI and Kubernetes. They drive incredible capabilities, sure, but they also introduce novel, often poorly understood attack vectors. For instance, 84% of orgs are now using AI in the cloud, but a concerning 62% of them have at least one vulnerable AI package.
So the tools themselves are vulnerable.
Right, and with Kubernetes, 93% of organizations have at least one privileged service account. If that gets compromised, the potential blast radius is huge. These trends fundamentally reshape the nature and scale of the challenges, forcing defenders to learn and adapt at an incredible pace. Just reinforces that paradox.
Okay, we've painted a pretty stark picture of the threats there, a huge defensive challenge. But in the face of all this complexity, what are organizations actually doing? It seems like everyone's spreading their bets, right? Moving towards multi-cloud. Is that what the data shows?
The data strongly confirms that, yes, multi-cloud adoption is definitely the norm now, and it's a strategic choice.
Yeah.
A significant 55% of organizations are currently using 2 or more cloud providers.
55%. That sounds like a lot.
It is, and it marks a substantial increase from just 12% who reported using multiple clouds back in 2024.
Wow, quite a jump in just a year.
Huge jump. This isn't just a slight uptick. It's a fundamental change in how enterprises are architecting their digital infrastructure. It's a clear acknowledgement that, no single provider can do everything. The primary drivers. Pretty clear. Organizations want to capitalize on the specialization each provider offers, especially for cutting-edge stuff like AI services. Different clouds have different strengths. Beyond that, it's about resilience. Distributing workloads means protection against service disruptions hitting one vendor. And it helps avoid vendor lock-in, gives them more flexibility, more leverage. However, the market is still highly concentrated around the big three. AWS leads with 82% adoption, then Azure 54%, and Google Cloud Platform with 35%.
So multi-cloud often means some combination of those three.
Pretty much, yeah. That's the most common pattern we see.
Okay, that makes sense from a business strategy angle. But the security implications. Managing multiple clouds, it sounds like you're not just securing one castle, but 2 or 3. Each with its own design, its own potential weak spots. What specific security challenges does this multi-cloud reality throw at defenders?
That's precisely the challenge, yeah. And it directly amplifies the defender's paradox. While multi-cloud offers business benefits, it introduces significant security complexities. The biggest issues. They revolve around inconsistent policy enforcement and visibility gaps.
Different rules for different castles.
Exactly. Each cloud provider has its own security tools, its own configurations, its own best practices. Applying a unified security policy across these disparate environments becomes incredibly difficult. Think of it like trying to enforce the same fire code across buildings designed by different architects, each with unique quirks. This leads to visibility gaps. Your team might see AWS clearly, but have a blind spot in Azure or fragmented insights in GCP. Attackers love these gaps.
Right, they can move between the clouds where the monitoring isn't as good.
Precisely. They move laterally where monitoring is less consistent. You also face huge challenges with consistent identity and access management, ensuring the right people and machines have the right access, only the right access, across multiple platforms. Monumental task. The risk of misconfigurations, which we'll definitely dive deeper into, just increases exponentially with each added cloud provider. It's a constant effort to integrate and standardize security ops across these diverse landscapes.
And if multi-cloud wasn't enough complexity, AI is everywhere now, cloud included. But all this innovation must be bringing new risks, right? We're putting these powerful, complex AI models into production, often interacting with sensitive data. What are we seeing specifically on the AI security front?
Indeed, AI integration in the cloud is almost universal now. 84% of organizations are using it. But this widespread adoption brings a new class of security vulnerabilities, many still not fully understood. A concerning statistic: 62% of organizations have at least one vulnerable AI package in their cloud environment.
62%. And these aren't minor bugs.
Not always. Some of the most prevalent AI-related CVEs, those publicly tracked flaws like CVE 2024-397-5 and CVE 2025-32434, actually enable remote code execution. Remote code execution, so a hacker can basically run their own software on your AI system. Essentially, yes, gaining significant control. And beyond vulnerable packages, we're seeing new attack types. Things like prompt injection, manipulating AI behavior through malicious input, or model poisoning, corrupting training data to introduce biases or backdoors. Yeah. When we look at popular managed AI services, AWS SageMaker, Azure OpenAI, Azure ML Workspace, Vertex AI, AWS Bedrock, they're widely used. Same with common AI packages like scikit-learn, NLTK, PyTorch, Transformers, LangChain. They're deeply embedded. The problem is, these widely adopted services and packages also come with their own sets of vulnerabilities, shown by associated CVEs. It highlights a critical challenge. AI innovation is rapid, and securing it is struggling to keep pace. Widens that gap in the defender's paradox again.
Which really begs the question, are we innovating faster than we can secure? It feels like we're constantly playing catch-up, especially with brand new tech like AI evolving daily.
It's a very valid concern. And I'd say, yeah, often we are. The rapid iteration cycles in AI development, the complexity of integrating these models into existing cloud infrastructures, it creates a challenging environment for security teams. The focus is often on functionality, speed to market. Sometimes that pushes security down the priority list, further down the pipeline than it should be. We're building incredible new capabilities, promising transformations, but without robust security baked in from the start, those innovations become tempting, often soft targets. It's a fundamental tension. Agility versus security. Every organization using cloud AI has to grapple with it.
Okay, so beyond the shiny new tech and multi-cloud maze, some old school problems persist and maybe even getting worse. Let's talk sensitive data. Feels like every week there's another breach, often tied to exposed info. What's the current, maybe alarming state of sensitive data exposure in the cloud?
You're absolutely right. Data exposure is a persistent, escalating problem. Directly undermines trust, compliance. Our findings show a rising prevalence across various storage types. For instance, a worrying 38% of organizations storing sensitive data in databases also have those databases publicly exposed.
38%. Publicly exposed databases with sensitive data.
Yes. Think about that. Your most critical information, potentially available for anyone to find with a simple scan. And it doesn't stop there. We also see 33% of orgs with publicly exposed storage buckets, like S3 buckets, or similar, actually contain sensitive data.
So potentially unencrypted customer records just out there.
It happens. Imagine a company leaving a bucket like that exposed, even briefly. Direct invitation for data theft. And a significant 28% of organizations using cloud functions have publicly accessible functions with plain text secrets right in the code package or environment variables.
API keys, passwords, just sitting in the function code?
Exactly. Essentially leaving the keys to your kingdom in plain sight, an unlocked door waiting for an attacker. Looking across industries, healthcare really stands out as most susceptible for databases. Particularly alarming given PHI regulations like iPay.
Or the fines for iPay violations can be massive.
Huge. Potentially up to $1.5 million USD for severe cases, depending on culpability. But the risk affects a significant portion across almost every industry. It underscores the universal challenge of securing sensitive data in the cloud. It's not just fines, it's reputation, customer trust, operational integrity.
And given how much data is flowing through the cloud, it feels like every single asset is a potential target. What's the sheer scale of this vulnerability problem? Are we patching fast enough, or are these issues just piling up, adding more weight to the defender side?
The scale is truly immense, a relentless uphill battle for defenders. Our analysis reveals that, on average, cloud assets have a staggering 115 vulnerabilities
115 on average per asset.
per asset. That's a significant number, especially when you consider the continuous increase in vulnerability exploitation we're seeing. These aren't just theoretical vulnerabilities. Many are exploitable, offering direct pathways for attackers. What's even more concerning is the lingering legacy of old vulnerabilities. Our data shows 58% of organizations are grappling with at least one vulnerability older than 20 years.
20 years, still active in cloud
2
environments.
decades old, yeah. Like ancient, unexploded ordnance just waiting. And it's even more widespread when you look at vulns older than 10 years that affects 93% of orgs. This isn't just oversight. It speaks to the difficulty of comprehensive patch management across complex, evolving cloud infrastructures. Older systems get overlooked, or they're just too hard to update without breaking something. We also see specific persistent threats that just keep plaguing organizations despite being well known. Log4Shell, for example.
Ah, yes, that caused chaos.
Right, a critical zero-day from 2021. Yet 59% of organizations still have at least one asset vulnerable to it. Even worse, 32% of those vulnerable assets are public-facing, direct access from the internet. Similarly, 58% still have assets vulnerable to Spring4Shell, another major zero-day from 2022. These aren't obscure threats, they were huge news yet remain widespread. Beyond those, nearly 8 in every 10 organizations have at least one unpatched web service. This is critical because agencies like the FBI, NSA, CNMF, and the UK's NCSC specifically warned about groups like APT29 targeting unpatched software.
So state-sponsored groups are actively looking for these unpatched services.
Exactly. They use them for initial access, privilege escalation, data exfiltration. These unpatched web services are basically wide-open doors for sophisticated adversaries. It's clear that better, more strategic, more consistent patch management is desperately needed.
And speaking of things easier to let slip, let's talk neglected assets. The name says it all, but what are the real-world implications of these digital liabilities just floating around forgotten?
Neglected assets are precisely that. Forgotten or ignored from a security standpoint. Specifically, it's a cloud asset using an unsupported OS, no more security updates, or one unpatched for 180 days or more. When OS or apps reach end of life, vendors stop support. Security, stability inevitably decline. Like an old house in a busy city standing, but windows broken, locks don't work. Easy target.
So they're just soft targets, basically. Low-hanging fruit.
Absolutely. Prime examples of the defender's paradox. Attackers love them, often unmonitored, easily exploited. We know groups like APT29 specifically target these as a common technique for initial access. The prevalence is alarming. Nearly a third of all cloud assets, 32%, are currently neglected across organizations. Highly susceptible, significantly expanding the attack surface.
And what types are most neglected?
Virtual machines are the most common. A staggering 95% of organizations have at least one neglected VM. The most neglected OS distribution, Ubuntu, found in 88% of orgs with at least one instance. It's systemic. The real-world implication is immense when you consider 89% of organizations have at least one neglected cloud asset that is internet-facing.
Wow, a direct line in for attackers.
Right. And looking at industries most affected by public-facing neglected assets. Consumer manufacturing leads at 97%, technology 94%, public sector 92%. The fact that this prevalence has increased year over year shows this troubling trend is likely to continue as more assets fall into this category. It's a silent accumulation of risk that can lead to very loud breaches.
Okay, we've talked about the expanding attack surface, the sheer volume of vulnerabilities. Clearly, traditional security models aren't cutting it. So let's unpack this shift. The traditional perimeter was the network, the castle wall. But now identity is taking center stage. Why this fundamental shift? What makes identity the new core?
The shift is fundamental, yeah, driven by how our digital workplaces have utterly transformed. Historically, security focused on strong network perimeters, like you said, the castle wall, the assumption inside the wall, trusted, outside, not. But with BYOD, cloud apps everywhere, those traditional perimeters were becoming porous, almost non-existent.
Our data and apps aren't just inside the walls anymore.
Exactly. They're distributed across clouds, accessed from anywhere. So simply being inside a network boundary no longer grants implicit trust. Security now needs wrapping around each user, each device, each service, human or machine, no matter where they are, what network they use. Therefore, identity, human and non-human, is now considered the primary perimeter. It's about verifying who or what is accessing a resource, from where, under what conditions, with what permissions, not just their location on a network. This shift is a direct response to that expanding attack surface, forcing defenders to focus on the individual access points, the identities themselves.
It's fascinating because it's not just humans anymore. Devices, VMs, APIs, they all have identities. How are organizations managing this explosion of machine identities? What are the challenges, especially when these now outnumber humans so dramatically?
That's a crucial point. Arguably the quiet crisis in modern cloud security. We're seeing the rise of machine identity management, sometimes called workload identity or non-human identity management. Felix Gagins at Gartner put it well. All of the cloud adoption, all the automation, this has led to an explosion of the access for workloads. Most organizations don't properly manage them. And these aren't just a few. Non-human identities, NHIs, now outnumber humans by an astonishing average of 50 to 1.
50 to 1.
50 to 1. They're critical for powering cloud-native apps, efficient operations. But unsecured, they dramatically increase cloud risks, countless new potential entry points for that paradox. The core challenge. A significant chunk of breaches happen not because a human account is compromised, but a machine account. When an NHI is compromised, remediation gets far more complicated. It's not immediately clear how it was created, its purpose, what systems it accesses, severely impacts mean time to response.
Right, you don't even know what the compromised thing is supposed to be doing.
It's exactly. Imagine a factory with 50 robots, no clear owner or purpose, each with access to the master control panel. You're in a world of hurt. Fortunately, IAM tools are proving crucial. They help discover machine identities teams didn't even know existed, then manage their lifecycle creation to retirement. The stats highlight the problem scope. 78% of orgs have at least one IAM role unused for 90-plus days. These ghost roles can be activated by attackers. Average age of NHIs, AWS IAM instance profiles average a staggering 416 days old. Average remediation time for related IAM misconfiguration risks, 337 days.
Almost a year to fix these.
On average, yeah. And it's not just roles. 89% of orgs have IAM user credentials unused for 90-plus days, yet still active. Potential silent backdoors. Emphasizes the need for robust machine identity governance.
So with identity as the new perimeter, this explosion of identities, zero trust keeps coming up, big buzzword. But how is it actually maturing in practice? Are organizations truly implementing it, or is it still mostly theoretical?
Zero trust is definitely more than just a buzzword now. It's maturing significantly, moving beyond theory into concrete implementations. We're seeing more mature practices incorporating more and better secondary attributes for access decisions. Meaning access isn't just username password. There's a deeper, more continuous risk assessment, ensuring least privilege, always.
So it's more dynamic, context-aware.
Exactly. Context-aware authentication. Systems evaluate location. Device health is it patched. Endpoint security running. Even typical work patterns. If you sign in from an unusual location or device health degrades, the system can dynamically adjust policies. Maybe demand extra verification, limit access. Google's Beyond Court model is a prime real-world example. Access control shifted from network perimeter to individual users' devices. Secure work from anywhere without a traditional VPN. Furthermore, we're seeing Zero Trust Network Access, ZTNA, emerge as a powerful VPN alternative. ZTNA takes never trust, always verifies seriously, restricts network traffic until a policy grants access, continuously verifies identities of users and devices in a flow, checks again and again.
Better performance and security than old VPNs.
Generally, yes. Move security inspections everywhere, user device, apps, data, granular continuous verification, crucial for tackling the defender's paradox in modern environments.
This all sounds incredibly complex to manage, though. The sheer volume of identities interactions. Can AI help with the drudgery of IAM? Can it really streamline things like entitlement reviews, or is that just wishful thinking?
Not wishful thinking at all. AI is poised to be a powerful ally, especially for the tedious manual parts of IAM. Matthew McFadden at GDIT sums it up. You can't keep throwing humans at this challenge. You've got to automate it to scale. Applies directly to IAM. The volume of identities, permissions, requests can overwhelm human teams. Impossible to keep up with cloud's rate of change. Specifically, AI can significantly help with entitlement reviews. These are critical for preventing privilege creep users accumulating unnecessary permissions, but notoriously slow, labor-intensive.
Right, nobody enjoys doing those reviews.
Exactly. With AI, they can be faster, more effective, much more frequent. AI analyzes usage patterns, flags anomalies, recommends permission adjustments based on actual behavior. Human experts still need to oversee, evaluate AI recommendations, of course. But automation accelerates it dramatically. The broader push for automation in IAM and zero trust is a direct response to the problem's vast scale. Not feasible manually anymore, especially facing the paradox.
Okay, this next one sounds like sci-fi, but post-quantum cryptography.
Ah,
A real and looming challenge. What's the deal? Why think about this futuristic threat now?
definitely sounds futuristic, but the threat is very real. Profound implications for digital security. Encryption is foundational to identity security. Makes secure identity management, private comms, protected data possible. The concern: a powerful enough quantum computer could break current key encryption methods specifically. Public key crypto our whole digital world relies on.
For intercurrently unbreakable encryption?
Decryptable. Easily decipherable, yeah. Like finding a master key to every lock. Now, when this quantum supremacy for crypto arrives isn't totally clear. Estimates range from a few years to a decade or two. But cryptographers have been prepping, treating it as inevitable. Since 2016, NIST in the US has coordinated global efforts to develop quantum-resistant algorithms. Good news. As of 2024, 3 are available.
Okay, so solutions exist. What's the challenge then?
Implementation. It's a significant undertaking. As McFadden noted, now the race is on to implement those. Not a simple software update. Involves transitioning countless systems, web browsers, secure protocols, potentially very old legacy tech that might not even be capable. It's a massive necessary shift. Underpins so much identity and data protection. Organizations need to start planning the migration now. Assess cryptographic dependencies, identify critical systems. Even if the full threat is years away, the transition scale is enormous, needs a long lead time. A future challenge the defender must proactively address today.
We all know single sign-on, SSO, made life easier. But there's a newer concept, single sign-off. What is it? Why do we need it? Doesn't SSO cover everything?
SSO has been hugely beneficial, yes. Usability, security, reduced password fatigue, centralized authentication. However, as Felix Gagans points out, with SSO, we establish trust, but we can't really tear the trust down effectively across all connected systems in real time. That's the key limitation single sign-off addresses.
So logging out of one thing doesn't necessarily log you out everywhere instantly.
Not always, or not reliably across everything. Single sign-off is about ensuring that when a user logs out, or crucially, when their security context changes device, falls out of compliance, risk profile increases all active sessions across various app services are terminated, orderly, securely. The key framework enabling this: Continuous Access Evaluation Profile, or CAEP. Imagine an employee's laptop suddenly detected as rooted or jailbroken, or patching status declines high risk. A system using CEP detects this, automatically closes the user's active sessions in real time, sends immediate risk signals across identity provider and SaaS provider, effectively shuts down all their access.
That sounds much more responsive.
It is a significant step forward. Closes the interoperability loop opened by SSO. Instead of relying on individual apps for session termination, slow, inconsistent, CEP provides a standardized real-time mechanism. Major tech giants Google, Okta, Microsoft, Cisco, Apple are backing this standard. Projected to become much more mainstream 2025-2026. Vital for preventing session hijacking, ensuring access is revoked as soon as risk is detected. Another layer of dynamic defense.
So multi-factor authentication, MFA, pretty standard now, a must-have. But you're saying there's still room for improvement. What does enhanced MFA look like?
You're absolutely right. MFA adoption is way up, non-negotiable today. But yes, room for improvement, particularly making MFA more resistant to sophisticated attacks like phishing. The major push now: phishing-resistant MFA, moving away from methods easily intercepted or tricked.
Like text messages.
Exactly. Favoring methods like security keys, physical tokens, or integrated hardware authenticators over less secure options, like SMS texts for verification. Text messages are inherently less secure, rely on external carrier networks, vulnerable to interception via SIM swapping, other attacks. Security keys provide a cryptographic, hardware-backed solution, far harder to phish or intercept. Consider the strongest two-step verification. Don't require entering codes either, often quicker user experience too.
So better security and potentially easier to use.
Often. Yes. Google, for example, explicitly discourages text messages for MFA due to the risks. This move towards phishing-resistant MFA raises the bar on authentication strength, adds a stronger lock to the perimeter. And just to round out this identity section, it's worth highlighting some core IAM principles from the big cloud providers. Foundational best practices many are adopting. AWS focuses on users, groups, and the critical role of IAM roles. Users are people services. Groups simplify permissions. Roles are key for secure access management. Roles are unique, not tied to specific users, but assumed by services or external entities, granting temporary credentials. Strong AWS recommendation: always avoid using the root user for daily tasks. Root user has highest access, only for rare circumstances. Secure it with complex passwords, MFA. Treat root access keys like the ultimate master key, keep them vaulted.
Right. Don't use the master key for everyday errands.
Precisely. For Azure, best practice is centralizing identity with a single Microsoft Entra instance. Integrate on-prem directories using Azure AD Connect, but critical caveat, do not sync high-privilege on-prem accounts. Mitigates risk of an adversary pivoting from a compromised cloud asset back to your on-prem environment. Stops that lateral move. Azure also emphasizes enabling conditional access policies to block legacy authentication protocols, often exploited in a password spray, brute force attacks, cuts off easy entry points, and then Google Cloud. Their whole approach is epitomized by their Beyond Court model for zero trust. Focuses on continuous monitoring, user behavior, device health, service health. Moves away from network perimeter. Their cloud identity platform is designed for zero trust. Handles identity, access, device management. Supports strong authentication like security keys, which they highlight as the strongest two-step verification superior to texts. These core principles underscore the universal shift. Identity-centric security, least privilege, strong authentication, continuous verification everywhere.
This raises an important question, though. We've covered theory, stats, best practices. Let's get practical. How do attackers actually exploit these identity misconfigurations in the real world? What are some common attack scenarios leveraging these vulnerabilities, turning a small crack into a wide open door?
That's where the rubber meets the road,
Yeah.
where the defender's paradox really comes alive. IAM misconfigurations are consistently one of the most common, most critical concerns. They are, quite literally, the keys to the kingdom. Attackers exploit them for unauthorized access, lateral movement, data exfiltration, even crypto mining, and it's rarely a single, isolated mispermission. Often a combination of seemingly minor misconfigurations that, chained together, create a devastating attack path. Let's walk through a few real-world examples. They'd be quite clever in cities. Okay, scenario 1. Policy version creation leading to admin access. Imagine an attacker gets valid credentials for a cloud user, maybe found on Pastebin, Dataleak, whatever. Let's call the user Mallory. Initially, Mallory seems to have very limited permissions, but a crucial, subtle misconfiguration exists. Mallory has the IAM create policy version permission, allows creating a new version of an existing IAM policy.
Okay, seems minor enough on its own.
Right, but here's the clever part, the weakness the defender overlooked. The attacker leverages this. They craft a new policy version, including administrator access, full control. Then they use the Oz yam create policy version command, but include a specific, often overlooked flag. Set as default.
Ah, the set as default flag.
That's the magic trick. This flag automatically makes the new malicious policy version the default one without needing the IAM set default policy version permission, which would be much harder to get. Outcome. Attacker, through this ingenious privilege escalation, now has full admin access to the entire AWS account. That single, seemingly minor misconfigured privilege becomes a direct route to total compromise. Fragility of relying on single points of failure.
Wow, that's incredibly clever.
Yeah.
Terrifying. Like finding a small unlocked side door that lets you rewrite the building's entire access policy. What's another scenario? Maybe leveraging different permissions.
Let's look at scenario 2. Modifying assume role policy document for privilege escalation. Here, a user, operator, is compromised, maybe phishing targeting cloud admins. Operator has IAM policies attached that, due to misconfiguration, allow editing the assumed role policy of any existing role in the account. Very powerful, even if it doesn't seem like direct admin access initially. An indirect path to power.
So they can change who is allowed to use other role?
Exactly. The attack. Attacker, as operator, identifies an interesting, highly privileged role, maybe dev EC2 full, with broad control over EC2 instances. They use their IAM, update assume policy permission to modify the assume role policy document of this dev EC2 full role. They add operator's own user ARN to the role's trust policy, essentially telling the system, operator can now assume the survival role.
Like leaving a spare key for an accomplice?
Good analogy. Once the trust policy is modified, the attacker simply assumes that role using Oz assume role, immediately grants them temporary security credentials associated with that powerful role. Outcome. Successful privilege escalation. Attacker now has full control over resources managed by that role, like all EC2 instances. Could spawn instances, inject malicious code, destroy critical resources, serious damage. Another powerful example, seemingly indirect permission. Misconfigured provides direct privilege escalation. Exploits the defender's need to secure all pathways.
This one is particularly eye-opening, escalating from zero to hero with a combination of privileges. Highlights how layering permissions creates unexpected, dangerous vulnerabilities. It's the third scenario, especially when combining privileges that might be hard to detect.
This is maybe the most illustrative of how powerful a combination can be. Embodies the paradox where one overlooked link compromises the chain. Scenario 3. Combining EC2 instance creation with role passing. Scenario. User compromise, say phishing again. Compromised user has two critical but individually common permissions. IAM pass role and EC2. Run instances. Separately might seem reasonable for DevSops roles. Together, incredibly dangerous.
Okay. Run instances lets them create VMs. What does pass role do?
Pass role allows them to attach an existing IAM role to that newly created EC2 instance during its creation. Attacker finds an existing highly privileged role, say DevOps S3 full, with full S3 access maybe holding critical data, Kubernetes creds. Attacker runs a new EC2 instance using EC2 run instances. Crucially, uses the IAM instance profile flag to directly pass that DevOps S3 full role to the instance during launch. They also inject a reverse shell script into the instance's user data. Instance launches, script executes, establishes reverse shell, giving attacker root access on the new EC2 machine. No SSH keys needed.
Wow, like building a hidden tunnel with full access granted immediately.
It's exactly. From this compromised EC2 instance, now with the DevOps S3 full role attached, the attacker extracts associated temporary AWS keys directly from EC2 instance metadata, a well-known method. They import these new temporary creds. Now logged in with DevOps S3 full role, they gain full control over S3 buckets. Exfiltrate to destroy sensitive data, Kubernetes creds, customer DBs, critical files. This entire chain shows how two permissions, often granted for legitimate tasks, combined for significant privilege escalation, massive data compromise, highlights the immense challenge for defenders to foresee every possible combination.
These attacks, as you laid them out, incredibly sophisticated, but they leave tracks, right?
Yeah.
What makes them so hard to detect sometimes? Feels like with all the logging, monitoring, these should be flagged immediately, almost automatically.
You're absolutely right. They do leave tracks. Cloud providers like AWS offer robust logging. AWS CloudTrail records virtually all actions. CloudWatch can generate alerts based on CloudTrail events. So in theory, yeah, you could set alerts for update assume role policy, create policy version, run instances. However, the inherent difficulty in detecting these specific exploits is precisely that they aren't inherently malicious actions in isolation.
Because they look like legitimate operations.
It is exactly. Running instances, updating role documents, creating policy versions are all legitimate actions when done by authorized users or systems. That's the core challenge. If a compromised user machine identity has the permission, even overly permissive misconfigured, their activity looks like standard authorized behavior in logs, like finding a pickpocket in a crowd when they look like any other shopper. So how do you know if a user is truly authorized? How do you take proactive measures before something bad happens? It boils down to needing a crystal clear, continuous view of your entire environment. Ensuring security best practices, especially least privilege, are rigorously applied. If a dev group has IAM policies far beyond what's necessary, that's an anomaly to flag, even if individual actions seem legit. This means relying on sophisticated security tools, continuously monitoring for anomalous activity, gathering traces from CloudTrail, config changes, other sources. These tools need intelligence to identify subtle deviations, detect risky permission combinations being exploited. Tools like Falco, an open-source runtime security engine, can stream logs from cloud providers for deep visibility, help posture management, detect threats at runtime by observing actual application container behavior. Without that continuous contextual monitoring and a strong, least privilege baseline, these attacks easily blend into operational noise, leaves defenders constantly a step behind.
That's a powerful, somewhat sobering thought. Immense pressure on defenders. So, given this dynamic, complex cloud landscape, defenders' paradox, identity explosion, clever attacker exploits, what are the key takeaways? How can organizations practically close these gaps? Chart a more secure course.
The overarching recommendation: adopt a multifaceted, holistic approach. No single silver bullet, no one-time fix. Need to focus on several strategic pillars simultaneously to build genuine resilience against this evolving threat landscape. Build a robust adaptive defense system accounting for constant change. First, secure AI while leveraging it. Protect your AI models, packages, data using cloud best practices. Recognize the new attack vectors. But don't stop there. Strategically use AI itself to improve security outcomes. AI can be incredibly effective, enhancing risk discovery, streamlining remediation, enforcing least privilege, makes human teams more efficient, effective at scale, helps spot that needle in the haystack faster.
Use AI to fight AI risks, essentially.
In part, yes, and also to manage the sheer scale. Second, Protect your high-value assets. Identify your crown jewels, critical data, apps, infrastructure. Then prioritize securing attack paths, endangering those assets. Requires continuous scanning, monitoring, analyzing risk in context. Ensure real-time monitoring, detection, protection specifically for these sensitive assets. Guard against sophisticated threats without killing cloud scalability performance. If you can't protect everything equally, protect what matters most. Third, fundamental. Protect your sensitive data. Need clear understanding of where it all lives, databases, buckets, code repos. Once discovered, implement proper measures, encryption, access controls, DLP, ensure compliance, HEPA, GDPR, etc. Crucially, continuously monitor sensitive data for suspicious activity. Be ready to quickly investigate, triage threats. Fourth, prevent workload neglect. We saw how prevalent dangerous these are. Combat this. Maintain accurate, up-to-date inventory. Continuously monitor for abandoned, compromised assets. Only deploy supported apps OS receiving active vendor updates batches. Enforce strong security benchmarks before deployment. Rigorously oversee infrastructure as code, IAC, to prevent creating unmanaged, neglected workloads. Treat every asset like a valuable active component.
No more digital relics left lying around.
Exactly. Fifth, prioritize patching. Given the volume, can't patch everything at once. Strategic approach. Focus patching on vulnerabilities truly reachable, exploitable in your runtime environment. Perform continuous reachability analysis. Understand which vulns pose immediate risk based on network exposure, permissions, active usage. Prioritize remediation accordingly. Patch where it matters most, provides biggest attack surface reduction. Sixth, enforce the principle of least privilege, POL-LP. Non-negotiable, perhaps most critical in identity-centric security. Grant absolute minimum necessary permissions humans and non-human identities. Scope roles tightly. Leverage automation, AI-driven IAM for policy creation. Continuous monitoring, enforcing POL-LP at scale. Consider just-in-time JIT, access permissions granted only when explicitly needed. Further optimizes, secures access, reduces attacker opportunity window. Seventh, unify security across the entire application pipeline. Don't treat dev security and runtime security separately. Two sides of the same coin. Implement pre-deployment security. Detect issues in dev pipeline, code repos, ISE, before production. Integrate tightly with runtime measures. Need full pipeline visibility. Ability to enforce policies blocking risk before production. Capability to trace repeated issues from production alerts back to original code artifacts. Security built in, not bolted on.
Shift left, but connected all the way through.
Precisely. And finally, perform regular audits and leverage continuous monitoring. Conduct regular audits. Enforce policies, prevent misconfiguration creep. But beyond scheduled audits, continuously monitor access logs. Set proactive alerts for unusual anomalous activity. Goal, detect, respond quickly. Ensure even if an attacker gets a foot in the door, their progress is immediately recognized, halted. Minimizes the paradox's impact.
We've journeyed through some truly fascinating and, yeah, at times, alarming insights into the state of cloud security. From the evolving threat landscape, multi-cloud complexities, to the critical importance of managing every identity, human and machine, it's clear the stakes are incredibly high. It's a challenging environment, definitely, but with a clear understanding of the threats, a strategic approach to defense, organizations can indeed navigate these waters.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the sheer interconnectedness of cloud assets means a single, overlooked misconfiguration can now ripple across an entire enterprise. This raises, I think, an important question. In an era where attackers only need to be right once and the digital landscape constantly expands, how might we fundamentally rethink our strategies? Make being right every time not just an aspirational goal, but a continuously achievable state for defenders. What new innovations or deeper philosophical shifts in thinking will be required to get there, beyond just the tools and techniques we discussed today?
That's a powerful thought to chew on. A really good question for everyone listening. As you navigate your own cloud security challenges, remember that understanding these complexities is the first step. It's a continuous journey. And if you're looking for expert guidance and solutions in enterprise storage, backup disaster recovery, hyper-converged VMware, Hyper-V, Proxmox cluster, AI servers, SA365, a turnkey security appliance, public and private cloud, our friends at Stonefly are ready to help. Visit stonefly.com for more information. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into cloud security. Stay curious, stay informed, and stay secure.